See it.
All right. Welcome. This is Sheila Kilbane. I'm an integrative pediatrician here in Charlotte, and I am here with David Roberts. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're doing our Healthy Kids, Happy Moms and Dads talk series. And so David, I'm gonna go through your bio because it is extraordinarily impressive. And tonight we're going to talk about, he has developed a product called BrocElite, which is, it harvests the active component of broccoli that has so many health benefits. And you have a master's degree in public health from Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, a master's degree in biomedical engineering from the University of Virginia, bachelor's in electrical and biomedical engineering from Duke. And you have more than 20 years of experience working in quantitative research and public health across 3 continents, serving as founder and member of the New Dominion Philanthropy Metrics, and then American Pain Research Associates and Restore, which a lot of our people who will be watching know Restore because we've used that for a while. And so you worked closely with Zach Bush and you were developing that. And you have, before we get into the science part of it, I would love for you to share with us about your personal story of how you got into and why you started doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sheila, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. And so yeah, the product BrocElite. So it sounds like broccoli, but it's Broc and then Elite is it basically it's a supplement that has sulforaphane, which is that good chemical that you're talking about. And so um, I got into it and got into um, nutraceuticals or supplementation back in 2012 when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so she was trained as a nurse and was able to and had seen people with cancer do chemotherapy and wasn't really excited about that. And so wanted to kind of come up with some natural chemotherapeutics essentially, um, as opposed to just poison. Um, and so my back in the sciences, um, the chemotherapy they recommended her gave her like a 0.4% increased 5-year survival rate. And so I was like, well, it's kind of a little bit, but it's not that impressive. Um, and so yeah, we agreed, yeah, I'd help with research, but we wouldn't do things that were outside of the realm of science, kind of roll the dice or kind of quackery or whatever you want to call it. And um, so yeah, we basically um, started a lot of reading, a lot of talking to people, and in fact, within that first week of her diagnosis, we met Dr. John Gilday, whose wife had also been diagnosed with breast cancer, and she actually at that point I think was 9 years out. Um, and so they helped us set up juicing protocol and various supplement protocols, and then my wife's cancer, her name was Maura, spread, and so we decided to do more of a instead of a kind of a shotgun approach where we read literature and tried to apply what was in the literature. Really, every cancer is different, and even though you can have one specific type, then that's what it's called in the literature. It's really still different, and so we actually took her cancer cells, grew them in our lab, and put 60 different supplements on them to see which kind of supplements directly killed her type of cancer. And sulforaphane, which again is the chemical that comes from broccoli, was number 3 and directly killing her cancer. And so at that point, we went out, couldn't find it. We found some actually from this lab company called Sigma. It was $350 for 5 milligrams. It's called a standard, and so you use that to for measurement purposes, but not to take. But yeah, there wasn't anything out there, and so we grew lots of broccoli sprouts, which actually have about 50 times more sulforaphane than in mature broccoli. So we had this kind of crazy kitchen garden going. Well, at the same time, John was figuring out how to stabilize the sulforaphane and in his kitchen, and he actually figured it out. Went and measured it, sent it out to a lab, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is something that the literature, because there were over 2,000 papers, research papers on sulforaphane. The research is really crying out for this supplement, but it doesn't exist. And so my wife, Maura, ended up taking the first steps to raise some seed money for that. And then she died in September of 2017. After that, we decided to, the seed money came in, and we decided to go ahead and start BrocElite, and to really get this sulforaphane out to people, so that if it could help them, it would, and also as part of her memorial. So that's how it kind of got out there.
So you found this, you were able to make it stable, and that was the big thing, is because it's hard to make it stable that you can actually get it, because like, as you were pointing out, like if you're going through chemo, if you're not feeling well, or maybe you're a little kid, to drink broccoli sprout juice is not the best thing on the planet.
It's awful. It's disgusting. So yeah, we did that for years. And in fact, we actually had the stabilized sulforaphane in liquid form before we had it in powder, that we put it in the capsules now. And that was even worse because it was so concentrated. And so, yeah, to have it in a capsule that's swallowable. So it's I think it's a small capsule. We try to keep it small. It's for people, so that, and really kids, so that they can take it, yeah, and get the benefits without getting kind of feeling nasty.
Yeah. And so we're always, like in my practice, we're always talking about systemic inflammation and decreasing inflammation so that our immune system can work properly. And it's one of the big things that this does, right, is it activates that Nrf2 pathway, but then it also, it blocks one of the other inflammatory pathways that the pharmaceutical industry is very keen on blocking that pathway, because that helps to stop inflammation. So and that Nrf2 pathway, right? It has so many different. I'd love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah. So yeah, the Nrf2 pathway. So basically, Nrf2 is a molecule that sulforaphane can induce, and so when it's induced, it goes into the nucleus of the cell, and then just does a lot of different things on genes. And so one of the things it does is it actually turns on something called the antioxidant response system, which is a series of 200 different genes, 200 different antioxidants. So basically turns on 200 different antioxidants. If you think of vitamin C, it's one molecule, one antioxidant. So one vitamin C cancels out one pro-oxidant. Well, with sulforaphane, it itself is not an antioxidant, but it induces this whole system that actually stays on for 72 hours after it's turned on. So it's long lasting, or longer lasting, as opposed to vitamin C, where you can just pee it out. And then it actually works in promoting detoxification. So detox is kind of big, all these flushes and there's very little science behind most of the stuff that's out there. and really there's so much science behind how sulforaphane detoxes, and it works in all three phases. And so but what it's known for is phase 2 detox, which is Nrf2 dependent. Um, so it's again the strongest natural chemical at turning on phase 2 detoxification. Um, it turns on um, something called hemoxygenase, which helps with processing, for instance, bruises. So if you have a bruise and you're taking BrocElite and you're like, that went away fast. That's happened to some friends of mine. Like, yeah, that's sulforaphane. And so yeah, those are some of the things that the Nrf2 does. Now, on the flip side, the pro-inflammatory pathway, which is called NF-kappa B, is sort of the holy grail for pharmaceuticals with inflammation. And so they're always trying to figure out how to downregulate that. So sulforaphane does that as well. It's not unlike NF-kappa B, where it's the best natural molecule at turning on Nrf2. It's very good at turning off NF-kappa B. Curcumin, which is the active ingredient in turmeric, is probably a little bit. It's actually better at NF-kappa B, turning off NF-kappa B. But yeah, it does both. So it's a great. In fact, most of our testimonials that we hear back from customers and folks that try BrocElite is in the joints, so joint pain. I had hip pain and it's gone. Just really pretty, and a lot of them, relatively quickly within weeks. So we did actually do a study that internally, it's kind of a preclinical trial, looking at with 6 people, looking at IL-6 in urine, so interleukin 6, which is downstream from NF-kappa B, and it showed a 30% reduction in IL-6 within 24 hours. So that's enough, so you can really feel something's going on.
Yeah, that's remarkable. And then that's something, and actually there's Amy, I see that you're listening, is that because that's something that we do check sometimes in the kids, and that IL-6 can be elevated. So I love that acts so quickly, because it's, you don't think about joint pain in kids, but they definitely will get it, especially if it's something else, if they have rheumatologic issues or, many different things going on. But it's in the adults. And I think my mother is listening. Mar, I think this would be super helpful for you.
Yeah.
And so along those lines of with detoxing, it's so glyphosate, which was one of the reasons that one of the original reasons that I was so interested in this, is that it helps to clear glyphosate. So I know you can wax philosophic about its herbicides and glyphosate for days, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, and it's just insidious. I learned about glyphosate with my work with Restore, and showing how it actually tightens up the tight junctions that glyphosate loosens, so causing leaky gut. The sulforaphane does does that as well, but really the focus of our research is not on that, but on looking at what does glyphosate do to Nrf2. So Nrf2 is one of those things that if it's not functioning well, you don't live long, and so basically it's vital. And so we looked at if you have sort of a high glyphosate meal, so looking at 100 micromoles, and so we basically, that's something like soy. Oh, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think I hit my microphone. Sorry. So yeah, 100 micrograms per milliliter that is a high level, but we're trying to look at something that would give us a response. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that if you had a meal, you could reach that level, is what I'm saying. Um, and and what we found was basically that depressed and decreased the Nrf2 pathway 30%. So
And you had said like even one fast food meal could do that.
yeah, yeah, it depends on really what you're eating, but yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that um, that you could get that exposure. And so, but that 30% it may not sound astronomical, but that's essentially what's going on. Is it's turning off every cell in your body's ability to detox. So Nrf2, like we said earlier, is responsible for detoxification. And so if it's not functioning, so 30% is essentially off, and that pathway is in every cell. It's not just in your liver. Every cell detoxes. And so I've heard it said that so glyphosate, some people call it the mother of all toxins because of its ability to make every toxin that much more toxic because you can't get them out. So that's one area of research looking at Nrf2. So, but when you take sulforaphane and basically one dose of the BrocElite sulforaphane, that basically goes back to baseline. So that 30% goes back to normal functioning. Now, if you didn't have that glyphosate exposure, you'd have an additional 30% functioning in an Nrf2. And so that's why I think a lot of people who take it get that benefit with joint pain, and there are obviously other benefits too. We also looked at something called gap junctions. And so if you think of tight junctions, are if you have two cells, it's the barrier between the cells, but so the tight junctions keep the outside on the outside and the inside on the inside. Well, the gap junctions actually connect the cells, and it's the communication network between cells. So if you think about it, we're not just a bunch of individual cells, we're functionally coupled. There's communication going on. And so the glyphosate, again, 100 micrograms per milliliter exposure, basically reduced the gap junction function by 50%, which is scary. And again, with the sulforaphane, it brought it back up to normal levels. And so the issue with the glyphosate and gap junctions is, especially in the model that we used, it was on these were on dog cells. So it's basically the model that's used for gap junctions. And so there's something called connexon 43. So if you think of the gap junctions as it's like a flower with 8 petals, and then in the middle is the opening, so it opens and closes. Those connexons are linked to tumor suppression, and when those are depressed or not functioning, it promotes cancer. And so that's the link, and that was something that it's not that surprising, but seeing it depressed and the ability to communicate, or lack of communication through glyphosate. Sorry, I guess something popped up on my screen. So anyway, but yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that glyphosate promotes cancer. And in fact, when I get asked, because of my wife's cancer, I get asked, if there's one food that you could not, that you would recommend not eating, just one. I have a lot more, but I always say high fructose corn syrup, because of what it does, the connection with sugar, but also it's genetically modified, so there's trace amounts of glyphosate in there. So
it's, yeah, it's, I this, it starts to, when I think about what we feed our kids and that we have this high fructose corn syrup and everything, it's, you know, because we're just not eating real food anymore. And that's why, because the other thing too is, you know, can we get all of this through food? And it would be lovely if we could, but the truth of the matter is that if we were eating real food potentially, but you're getting exposed to all of this stuff regardless, because whether you're drinking it, and if you know, if you're drinking if you're drinking tap water, you're getting exposed to a lot of things
yeah,
that the city, you know, when the city sends out their water testing, they're not necessarily testing for all of the things that can be in it.
yeah,
And there's this study the Environmental Working Group did, I think in the mid 90s, the 10 human study where they took cord blood from 10 babies and they looked for almost 400 different chemicals, and each of the babies had almost 300 chemicals in them, many of which were carcinogenic. And there were things like testosterone and estrogen and albuterol and antidepressants. And this is before the baby has ever stepped foot on the planet. And so I think that sort of begs the question that I do think that now we need, because we have the babies who are being born to the parents who were eating high fructose corn syrup and have been exposed. No, how old are your kids?
yeah. 10 and 12.
It was just after that.
I think 94. But yeah, I'm sure I had a number of bad things in my TV dinners growing up. So,
So it's we just, it's so needed right now, and I can't, so that it's, we're not too gloom and doom. One of the things that this can also help with, right, if you maybe are going to have a glass of wine, we're not promoting drinking, but if you have a little broccoli before you have a glass of wine, if my dad is listening to this, he can um,
yeah, yes,
well, it just might help your body metabolize a little bit. But you do the other thing, I have a bottle of it right here, are the immune system benefits, because it is anti-inflammatory, and the Th1 and Th2 benefits. I would love, because we talk, I have an amazing integrative pharmacist on my team here, and I think she's listening, but we talk a lot about Th1 and Th2 balance.
yeah. And so you just covered quite a bit right there. So,
Oh,
well, I did want to say one of my favorite quotes is from Michael Pollan, who says he wrote Omnivore's Dilemma and some other books, but he says if avoid eating food you can buy at a gas station. So that's kind of the rule of thumb. At a gas station, if you can buy it at a gas station, don't eat it. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, that you're not going to get it organic there, but a lot of it, most things have either soybean oil that's disguised or canola oil. Both of those are GMOs, or vegetable oil is the catch-all, and that's a blend. But it's just that's those oils are in everything, and if it's not, if those aren't in the things that those aren't in, high fructose corn syrup is. And so it's why, you know, eating out, getting a salad, eating out is actually not that healthy because of the dressing. Doesn't has nothing to do with the vegetables. The vegetables don't have to be organic. But you know, I buy all organic, but it's much more the dressings, and so uh, so yeah, and then you're alluding to this. So I do bring, not this year because there weren't any holiday parties, but yeah, previous years I'd bring a bottle of broccoli to holiday parties, and give it out because it does do such a good job at detox. So alcohol is a toxin. Um, some people can wake up the next day having had one too many, feel a little bit yucky, and so what the sulforaphane does is um, it actually slows down the phase 1 and speeds up the phase 2, so there's a balancing there. And then phase 3 is the excretion, and it does all three. So um, it's one of the few that does all three, and it's actually, yeah, it's um, if you're interested in detox, I can wholeheartedly recommend sulforaphane because it's probably one of the most studied that does all three. But going back to immunity, yeah, I mean that's such an important topic these days, and such a good point because yeah, you're on the front lines. You see it. You see because it has some to do with the leaky gut. So basically, your intestines are open. You're seeing things in your body that your body shouldn't be seeing, and developing um, um, antigens or intolerances short term, you know, allergies long term that can go into autoimmune. And so your immune system is always on. And so, you know, and that's chronic inflammation. And so basically dealing with the chronic inflammation and then that's one of the things that um, that my other colleagues, John Kilbane and Martin Katz, and Martin's an MD, know. They always talk more about this than I do, but yeah, it does balance the Th1 and Th2 sides, and please don't ask me to explain more than that.
I just always say it's that Peter daughter.
Yeah, it is. It
And
is. Yeah.
we need them in balance because we have such this epidemic of this Th2 overdrive of
Yeah.
all of the allergy issues and asthma and eczema, and with all of these food allergies that we have. And I just think, and we don't really know why we have such higher rates of food allergies and things like that, but these are just the small things that we can do to help get our bodies, because we're seeing, I mean, even the kids that we see now versus 10 or 15 years ago, it's just a different, we just have to do a lot more to get their systems back into balance. And
Yes.
so it's, and with COVID right now, is really, we want to keep our systemic inflammation down so that our immune system can work properly. And when you have that balance, your body's going to respond better. And, hope you might get some symptoms, but hopefully you're going to, whether it's the cold, the flu, COVID, hopefully your system is just, maybe you'll get some symptoms or none at all, and then you're going to move through it.
Exactly. Yes.
But I think, and here, Amy asked a question here, and I think this is perfect. I'll read it to you because you can talk about the other, the watercress. So she said, I ordered BrocElite and need to reorder, but I received an email about Immunology, which would be best for my son to take, the BrocElite or the Immunology. Also, should he be doing the kids or the regular?
Yeah. So great question. So the Immunology is basically, we came out with it because we were, you know, um, we need to boost our immune systems right now, and so we're looking for some specific things in an immune product. Um, the whole yeah this the whole zinc ionophore thing that became politicized somehow. I still don't understand how that happened, but but yeah, I mean the science is there. Inserting zinc into a cell is very important for specifically viruses. Um, and but there are natural ones. You don't have to have a pharmaceutical. So EGCG, which is the chemical from green tea, and then quercetin, which is comes from like the skin of an apple, or the actually highest in the part of the onion that we throw away, the skins, um, which I always find funny. It's like, okay, that's the most nutritious part, and we just toss it. But but basically, those two are there's research how those two chemicals can bind zinc and then insert it into the cells. So that's what a zinc ionophore is. So that so combining that, and then looking at milk thistle. So the active ingredient in milk thistle is called silymarin, and that has people know that much more for detox, but it's actually an immune modulator, immune booster too, and a balancer actually, very similar to what sulforaphane does, and then sulforaphane. And so to her point, the amounts, in Immunology, the amount of sulforaphane, it's a good amount. It's not the same amount. It's less because you only have so much real estate in the capsule. It's less than in a whole capsule of BrocElite, but the immune product is specifically designed to be for your immune system, and boosting your immune system. The BrocElite sort of does all the other things that we've talked about, and with the doses. And it's not BrocElite; it's BrocElite Plus is the name of it. And the plus is that we add something called PEITC. It's all of the cruciferous vegetables have these cousin chemicals to sulforaphane called isothiocyanates, which is the name that isn't that important. What is important is that they're really powerful, and the one in watercress is potentially more powerful than sulforaphane. So we actually put that in. That's the plus in BrocElite. So we add that, and there are studies we've done internally, but there are 2 studies externally showing that the sulforaphane and PEITC work in synergy. And so what synergy, a true synergy, is the effect, the combined effect is bigger than both individual effects. So like 1 + 1 equals 2 is not a synergy, but 1 + 1 = 5 is a synergy. So that's what we're seeing. It's about a 5 times effect. So that's the plus. Now, BrocElite is loaded, and there are a good number of people that cannot tolerate it, at least early on. And so we suggest taking it with food. And for that reason, and kids are among them because kids are smaller. For that reason, the BrocElite Kids does not have the PITC in it because it's pretty, it's potent. And so people who can't tolerate the regular BrocElite Plus should take the kids version, and then also it's great for little kids who you want to start in on it, kind of ease them in, and then they can kind of build up to the larger dose. So my kids, my children take they've taken since they're 7 and 9 the full capsules, and that was before we had the kids version. But the kids, it's a lower price point for kids, for families, and it's still a great product, and you won't have the potential for that negative effect that can come on when you have something that's really strong. So I don't know if that answers her question, but that's my.
Yeah. So Amy, I would do the BrocElite Plus, and she could do the other one in addition any of the kids got exposed or if anything like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's designed to be preventative, but certainly exposure as well.
Okay, awesome. Because that's what I think all of you know what he's talking about with the zinc and the ionophores is that just helps that zinc to get inside the cells, which is what is going to help to slow the replication of the coronavirus. Um, so that's at least that's you know that is what it has been shown in the past, right, with other coronaviruses. Um, so, but yes, and Amy, I think your kiddos would do fine with it. And you could also, I mean, I guess people could start at mid-meal if it was bothersome at all, just to get used to it. Um, and then the brain benefits. That was it, because you talked about the anti-aging and so I would love to have you talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's something called brain-derived neurotropic factor, or BDNF for short, and that's really at the center of brain health. And so when our brains age, there different things can happen. We can get Alzheimer's, we can get dementia, we can get Parkinson's, and the BDNF really is at the center of brain health. And so what it does is it actually protects existing neurons from degradation, but it also, and this is something we didn't I mean, I didn't know even a couple years ago this was possible, but it grows new neurons, and so yeah, it's very 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 good for the brain. People take, a lot of writers, people are looking for neurotropics that sort of focusing in to be able to concentrate. Um, and this is so yeah, that stimulation of the BDNF is important. We have a decent number of people. It's not everybody, but maybe about a quarter of people who take it, especially if they take a morning dose and an evening dose, have vivid dreaming, and that's one of the signs of the BDNF kicking in. And so I'll talk to somebody who's had it. Hey, did you notice anything? No, I didn't notice anything. How is your sleep? I've had these crazy dreams. And I'm like, well, they're like, no, that's not the sulforaphane. Yes, and so I'll explain it to them. But yeah, it's there's a lot to talk about. I don't know if you saw one of the latest David Sinclair papers in Nature, but I haven't read it all. But he's actually talking about reversing aging, which is a little crazy, right? And a lot of the buttons that he's wanting to push, sulforaphane does. And so I won't go into all the. I think there are 5 distinct areas of anti-aging that sulforaphane helps with. But yeah, it's very important. It's a wonderful, wonderful chemical. One of my neighbors actually was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I didn't give him some, but actually a friend of mine gave him some BrocElite, and so so he calls me up. He's was an older gentleman, and he's like, David, can this help? Does your BrocElite work on your blood pressure? And I'm like, yeah. And his blood pressure was normal for the first time and ever, for years and years and years, and like everyone was like, what's going on, and so that's one of the things that I tell people, and we have in our FAQs, if you have blood pressure issues, be sure and work, with your physician, because the sulforaphane will start lowering it, and you don't want to get it too low. So
Very good. And then the other thing is if you're on blood thinners.
that's right. So it's a blood thinner. So definitely don't take it before surgery. I think they say a couple weeks or a week, whatever your physician is saying. Just don't take it. And then once they say you can take it again, but it thins your blood for sure. Yeah.
And then a lot of people are asking, is it safe to take for long periods of time?
Yeah. It's broccoli. I mean, it's a food. I mean, so yeah, it's safe. And if there's a concern that I don't have that concern, but if you're concerned, just cycle off, and then come back on. And so, but yeah, and so kind of going back to how you framed the conversation earlier with the toxins in these babies, in the cord blood. And it's in women's breast milk. So there was a study in the mid 2000s, I think out of France, on the flame retardant found in the women's breast milk. It's flame retardants on everything. It's in clothes, it's on furniture, and that soaks into your skin and it gets into your in your fat, and it got into women's breast milk, and that was going into babies. And at that point, nobody knew, like, what is that doing? Well, it's a potent toxin, and so we are live in a toxic environment, and so it is important to kind of continually detox. And sulforaphane is just one of the tools in the tool belt to help you do that. So yeah, if you're concerned about it, cycle off for a week or two, and then come back
on. And then somebody asked, can you take more than the recommended dose?
Yeah. I have a unlimited supply of the stuff, and so I definitely take more than the recommended dose. So this actually there's a
flowing.
Well, it's a fun question, because we actually do our own internal toxicity studies. So looking at renal proximal tubule cells, so kidney cells. The reason, like, you have certain dosings of pharmaceuticals like ibuprofen, like Tylenol, is that, well, Tylenol, you'll kill your liver, but everything else, you're going to kill your kidneys, and it's the proximal tubule cells in the kidneys that you will kill. And so we do what's called a lethal dose 50, LD50. So it's what's the amount of the chemical you can put on these renal cells in culture, where 50% die, 50% live. That's the LD50. And so we actually we put BrocElite on these cells looking for this LD50, and actually the experiment, we went over the weekend, and we forgot to change out the media, and it was kind of the no. But when we got back, not only were the cells still alive, but they actually had grown. And so if you think about it, the media is perfected to optimize growth, but somehow there's something in the BrocElite where that actually promoted this growth beyond what was in that media. And so that's a long-winded way of saying it's actually great for the kidneys. So you will get, your tummy will get sick, and you'll feel nauseous way before it's going to hurt anything. So typically a higher dose is good, but you really want to balance it, because it's super strong, and you don't want to, like, your first week on it take like a handful, like, kind of titrate up if you're interested in doing that. And so but as far as getting the benefits, the recommended dose will give you the benefits. That gives you, I think we've measured 2 micromole in the blood, and that dose is achievable with BrocElite.
Very good. Focus. I heard you in something else that I was listening to talk about focus, that it can also, with this, potentially with the brain-derived neurotropic factors, that can potentially also help. So if we have kids with attention challenge, or adults with some attention challenges, this could potentially just help with focus.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's actually research on that, and looking at the literature, there's a wonderful paper out of Johns Hopkins looking at older young men who are autistic. So I think it's a mean age of 14, but ranged even up into the 20s. And that's a population where you don't really see much change, right? They're kind of set. Well, what they did was I think they had them on sulforaphane for I believe it's 18 months, and I apologize, but it was a long time, and it was 18 weeks. Actually, it's probably 18 weeks, and so and their scale scores. So there are 2 various autistic scale scores that you can give exams and measure that are calibrated for autism, and they improved 30%. And then when they took the young men off the sulforaphane, they measured the scale scores again, and they went back to baseline. And so that's kind of an extreme concentration issue with being on the spectrum. But I mean, my boys soccer coach has ADHD, and he got a bottle, and he called me. He texted me. He's like, "David, I have had the best paperwork day of my entire life. Like, what is this stuff?" And so it definitely, especially if you're on the spectrum, can help. If you're not, it still can help. And I will point out, I mean, be remiss not to, that there's the gut-brain connection, and so a lot of what's going on, in your gut, and the inflammation in your gut, it's important to, and inflammation in general, but a lot of your inflammation stems from the gut, because of what we were talking about earlier. What we eat is so questionable and pro-inflammatory, really, that that connection, and improving that, your gut can improve your brain health. So
yeah, absolutely. Very good. And one of the questions was about kids' capsules. I mean, because you didn't put it in a liquid or anything like that, just because the taste is so bad, right? And it's the kids is in just a little bit of a smaller capsule.
Yeah, it's actually the same size capsule, but the capsule's small anyway. It's a size 1. But yeah, we've had people request gummies, and I'm like, you don't understand. This stuff it's so bad. The liquid.
Here's the size of the capsule.
Yeah, so that's very
small. Yeah.
You can we do sell the liquid. Some people, believe it or not, the nastier it is, the more efficacious they believe it is. And so
you have the liquid. All right, I didn't realize that. Okay, you do have liquid.
We do sell the liquid. As many warnings as we can. We kind of discourage it, because it's just like it's not great, but it's loaded. You can get in a tablespoon, you can get 30 mLs of sulforaphane, or I'm sorry, 30 milligrams of sulforaphane in 15 mLs. So Um, so it definitely is loaded, but it definitely can. So it has hydrogen sulfide. So we freeze dry the liquid, and that uh, comes off, and so that being still there actually adds some health benefit, but it also can make your tummy a little bit rumbly, and you get that like, um, wow, I feel like I'm gonna throw. I got the heat flashes, you know. So anyway, but we do have a good number of people who love it. Use it in salad dressings. It's a little crazy. So, but we do not. I do not do that. So
Yeah, I get you can put it in a smoothie.
you can. Yep. And we have people do that. You can open the capsule, put it in the smoothie. If the capsule's too big, you know, there's some people it's still too big, even that small, and so you can open it up, put it in a smoothie. So what we did before we had capsules. So with my wife, we had these. Um, you don't have to have a test tube, but we had these 30 ml test tubes, and so we put 15 mLs of the sulforaphane broccoli extract liquid, 15 mLs of lime juice, and the citrus actually cuts it. So if you're doing it in smoothies, get something
Oh,
citrusy in there, and that'll definitely cut whatever that kick is that is kind of nasty. And then a packet of stevia, we'd shake it up, and then just down the hatch. And so that's definitely, I mean, an option as well.
very good. Awesome. Is there anything other, are there other questions that people have? Um, and David, are there other things that we missed that you can think of that are,
Yeah, I mean, I think with you being a clinician, so we have a clinician only, professional only formula with curcumin. And so going back to the gut and the gut health and the gut brain, um, and curcumin is not very bioavailable. Um, and so if you're wanting to get it inside your cells, you want a bioavailable curcumin. And so what we are wanting is actually the curcumin to kind of stay in the gut and improve the inflammation in your gut lining. Um, and so the professional with curcumin actually has the 10 milligrams of sulforaphane still. It's a larger capsule, but it has 350 milligrams of just straight curcumin, and so that's quite popular. There's one of our largest clinician purchasers is a GI doc who's seen great benefits. So if there are GI issues, you know, you may want to try it, and you can get it um, through your practice, hopefully.
yes, yeah, we were just on the phone, Deb and I were just on the phone with another one of our clinician friends about some of our patients with SIBO that can be so tricky and people are bloated and end up being in a lot of pain, and so this is a really good adjunct that we can use for those kiddos. And then Deb is texting me. She was saying precautions for people with sulfur sensitivities. Have you seen that very often?
Um, yeah, that's a question we get a lot early on, and I mean, I think people with because it is sulfur based, but it's not sulfur, right? It's a attachment. So yeah, I
I
can't.
think you probably have to have a pretty extreme sensitivity.
Yeah, I
Would
think so. I can dig into my notes. That's one that we've fielded, and I should know the answer, but uh, I haven't had seen the question in a
that's
while.
okay. And that it's kind of like, I mean, in the past 15 years, I mean, I think I've only had less than 5 patients with any kind of a significant sulfur sensitivity. So I don't, I think it would be pretty rare. So the one other one that I wanted you to share, somebody just asked a question about sulfonamide is the chemical structure in drug allergy. I guess that's just a comment.
Yeah.
But the study that you all did or that was done in China.
Yeah. And I think this was another Johns Hopkins study. So Johns Hopkins has the chemoproductive institute. Dr. Jed Fahey is up there. I just retired, but they would grow the broccoli sprouts, and they would basically, before each study, they would create this broccoli sprout beverage, measure the amount of sulforaphane in it, and then in that same day administer it. So it's quite involved. But this one in China, so I've been to Beijing. There are a lot of these urban areas, and Beijing is one of, it's the capital, but there are, I think, hundreds of these cities in China that are million plus, so huge urban areas that have a very significant amount of smokestacks from the industry. And there's just a haze. There's smog 24/7, and so you actually literally walk outside without a mask. Now everybody's wearing masks, so it's different. But you walk outside without a mask, you go back in, and your snot would be black, literally black. And so, that's a massive exposure. And what is it? What's in that? And so the study was giving this broccoli sprout beverage and then collecting urine to see what toxins come out. And they found also a potpourri of toxins coming out in the urine that sulforaphane is able to help excrete. And so that's a pretty powerful study. There's a study on mercury and sulforaphane, and I think a few other metals and sulforaphane. So it definitely can handle quite a few toxins.
And there you have a ton of information on your website. And
yeah, we used to link directly to the studies, but I think FDA discourages that. So we link to PubMed, but we have the name of the study, so you can just cut and paste the name into PubMed, and then the studies pull up. But I guess there's a 2-click rule where if you're selling the product, it can't. And it is a good rule, because there are a lot of fakes out there. But you can't, having like a direct click. It implies that your supplement, which may help with the disease state, which supplements, because of FDA regulations, is deregulated. You have to say supplements actually don't do anything to affect disease states. But cut paste into PubMed, and then you can, whatever article we have on our website, you can get.
Very good. Well, awesome. I'll ask this last question, and I had put so I put a link where you could go to the BrocElite website in the chat box, and then somebody's asking, Corey is saying, as a physician, do you stock it on your shelves for your patients or refer them to the website to purchase? Wondering on the best way to make it accessible, cost affordable to my patient base. Yeah, oh great, Corey. So we do stock it, and we also have a link to the website. So with our with our patients in the practice, we can, they can buy it here, or we just give them a link to the website.
Yeah, and the products are different. The physician products are more potent, um, but the ones that we sell on the website, which are we call retail, are very efficacious as well. We just want to give the clinicians the option to have the best, um, most potent forms.
And so then if people, like if there are clinicians listening, they can just contact you all to set up an
Yep,
account?
yep. To set up a wholesale account, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Um, Very good. So we've got some, I think we've got another biochemist on here.
Yeah. So I saw that indole 3-carbinol. So no. So indole 3-carbinol is derived from broccoli, but it's derived from a, a chemical in broccoli it degrades, and so because ours is stable, it stay there's a I can't remember the name of the isothiocyanate that is the precursor to indole 3-carbinol, but it because it's stable, it doesn't degrade into that. So it doesn't have I3C, um, and I think that answers that. Oh, and then as far as cancer prevention, um, I'm going to not answer that question. I think you can do your own research on. I mean, so there are papers for sure on sulforaphane and cancer. There are papers for sure on indoles and cancer, and so I mean, I think every cancer is different. It just depends on the cancer. Um, so.
Yeah. Well, because what you were saying, and I don't know how much you talk about this, but you were saying like with your wipes that you were able to check all these different things, that initially vitamin C, right, was helpful, but then later on it stimulated it. So, which is the point of where you said you two made that agreement that you wanted it to be science based and you didn't want to go outside of the realm of things that you knew were going to be working, because you can. And that is my point with supplements, always with families too, is if you don't know what you're doing, don't do any supplements, because they're all so different and they're not always benign.
Yeah.
um, but this is one of the reasons that we wanted to do this webinar too, is because this is a whole food based supplement, which are the ones that we prefer to use, because your body is able to utilize them better than putting something synthetic into your system. And it's always, of course, this is based on, you want to eat well, sleep, exercise, do your have your tools for stress. And so then this is just another toolbox of things that you can do to help keep your body healthy.
Yes.
And well, one of the, I always say, okay, so we breathe what, about 10,000 liters of air a day. You drink, a couple liters of water a day, and then you eat, 3 meals a day with snacks. So you want to make sure all of those things are clean also. And then, you want to make sure that the products that you're using are clean.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so we have a water purifier, reverse osmosis, or RO reverse osmosis filter for the water we drink in our house. We have um, air filters. I live in a house that was built in 1933, and so there's just because of that, there's mold. It's not like mold everywhere, but there's different places, and so having air filters to filter out the spores. And then eating organics. So those are three of the main areas where you get toxins. And there was a question on if you don't feel a difference, should you keep taking it? And I mean that's obviously up to you. That there are few supplements that are as researched as sulforaphane. And so there's so much research on showing that it's beneficial whether you feel a difference or not. Um, my just being in public health, and so just looking at the toxicity issue, yeah, I'd say go ahead and it is a potent detoxifier, and so because we live in a toxic environment, just that alone is worth it. But you know, a lot of people we've had, you know, significant number of people, maybe 10-20% of folks who don't feel a difference. They come off, and then they're like, whoa. That they do notice a difference, but they hadn't noticed they noticed until they stopped it. So that's another thing, and so you can play around with it, play around with the dosing, and see and monitor your dreams. So,
I often have crazy dreams, so I'll keep enhancing my dreams.
yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And we've recorded this, so we'll send it around, and we'll send a little bit more information around. And if the world opens up again and you come through Charlotte, you'll have to come and visit our clinic. We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll meet you in person sometime. And thanks for this great product.
Absolutely, Sheila. Well, thanks for all the work that you're doing in this series on healthy and health and moms and kids is so important, especially at right now with all that's going on. So thank you.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. All right, have a great night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.